So this is what we're starting out with. It's grown out. It's a bunch of different shades of blonde. I really want to break that up, create more of like a ribbony effect. So I'm going to be adding in some lowlights and backcombing. This is actually kind of a color correction more than anything. So I'm going to be starting in the back of the head, taking a pretty decently thick section and backcombing. Now this is a very, very shortened version of a color correction. I am going in with the King's Bleach, which I love, my Frimar Power Painter, and I'm saturating both sides of the section, but you'll see I'm not just kind of slopping it on there. I'm actually being pretty intentional with my placement. I'm gonna pop my full foil underneath. These are Salon Care foils, and it's just a pack of 500, and all I do is not rip the sheets in half. Because this is a color correction and there's a bunch of different blondes going on the ends, what I did was, apart from my lightener, I also mixed up 6N 6.3 with 10 volume to go in between the foils. She also has some gray hair, so I was covering that as well. So I just go in between all of the foils with that. So you want to make sure that your sections are thick enough to support that, because you want to make sure that you're still seeing those ribbons of blonde. See here, I'm going in with that 6.3 6N. Quite a large chunk of hair if you could see it. We're just going to break that up. Make sure you saturate well. I go in and comb everything through after, but right now I'm just using my hands. Keep a clean towel next to you so that you could wipe your hands in between if you're going to use your hands. I'm going in with my 0 time system brush and just painting in between. Cover up the grays, also adding a low light. Now this can get a little bit tricky just because some of the ends are lightened and some are not. So I am back combing. And what I have to do is really paint with my lightener. So I have to go on the opposite side, paint. I'm trying not to overlap the already existing blonde pieces. And then flip it over to the other side. This saturation is really important, by the way. I always say that, but I'm just making sure that you know. That you know for sure that saturation is everything. Now I'm going in and I'm kind of staggering. And I'm just trying not to overlap those already blonde pieces. This does have protection in it, so if I do overlap a little bit, it's not the end of the world. So you'll see that I'm going in and I'm staggering with my brush. I'm not just painting a straight line like I would with my traditional slice and smudge method. I'm actually being a lot more intentional with my placement. Again, saturation on both sides is everything. I cannot say that enough. I think that that is the reason why we are able to take big sections and get even lift. I don't think, I know. So I'm going up, being intentional, working on kind of an angle. And I'm just going to repeat this same process to the crown. I switched out to my pink pewter Never Let Go comb. You know that this is my favorite back combing comb that there is. Now think about something. The more you back comb from the bottom, the more diffused the blonde is going to be. And I don't want the blonde to be super diffused. I'm really just back combing to create kind of staggering and blend at the root area. I want these to be kind of intentional ribbons of lightness throughout the hair. I'm not looking for it to be this blendy thing where you can't see the chunks of blonde. I want to see that contrast. So the more back combing that you do, especially when you're back combing from the bottom of the section, that is going to diffuse the blonde more. And that's not really what we want. And you'll see why at the end. The result that we achieved is really high contrast. You could really see that dimension and chunks of color. It's not a super blendy look, just blended at the roots. I'm using my wet brush to comb through the color just to make sure that it's fully saturated. You could use the Olivia Garden eye blend brush or any other brush of your choice that works well for blending. Now moving on to the sides, I gently back combed this piece and I'm just going in with my foils. We're going to create kind of a face frame. Just stagger on that lightener. So when you back comb up here at the face frame, you're not going to require a smudge. So I'm doing back-to-back pieces back combed. And you just want to make sure that you saturate really well. So we kind of want it to be bold, but, you know, not right up to the root. And at this point, we have transitioned into 15 volume, where in the back we worked with 10 volume. Now we're going to 15. It's really important to cycle your lightener. This is going to help with the timing process very much so that everything lifts nice and even. So then I actually went in with her base color a little bit because she had a high concentration of grays right there. And I do a third back to back. Now I'm going to put a little bit of darkness in, so I'm adding her in-between formula on this whole piece. I want to create contrast against that nice big money piece that I just created at her hairline. And then I'm just going to be going in diagonally here. Again, trying not to overlap, working with 15 volume. Now you want to make sure that you're also leaving out some pieces in the front so that we can create a money piece. So don't get those in the back comb. And I'm going up here and I'm grabbing that piece around her hairline and I'm just back combing that. Kind of chunky. Make sure that you take both sides and saturate. This is going to create that money piece effect. And now I'm going back in diagonal. So with this look, the only thing that I am keeping light are the pieces that I am actively painting. The other pieces, anything that's in between foils is going to be that 6.36N color. I really felt like I needed to start from scratch with her hair. So again, this is a really great technique for a color correction. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask me how much space I left out in between. That's completely dependent on how much darkness you want to see within there and how much lightness and how much contrast you want to see between them. So you could see I'm kind of leaving out a lot of hair in between and coloring that with the darker color. But I definitely, since my slices that I'm taking are thicker, it's still going to create this really nice highlighted look. And I am going up kind of to her part line diagonally, just like we do when we do the diagonal slice and smudge. Only I'm leaving out more hair in between than I typically would because I want to create ribbons. Now I'm just going to be repeating the same steps on the opposite side of the head, but it's good to see it at a different angle. So I'm going to speed through it a little bit, but now I'm working with 20 volume and will be for the remainder of the service. Going in and taking, so now also just working at this angle, you could see what that piece looks like that I back comb right in front of the head. So I'm going up on either side of her part, back combing, just like I did on the opposite side. Now to meet the two sections together, I'm just taking one last back comb right here in the middle. And now I'm going in between and making sure that all of those hairs are covered with that 6.36N formula. So I let her lift to about a level 8, and then because she lifted pretty warm, I'm going in and toning now. This is just one formula all over. There's no need for a root smudge. I just want to make sure that I'm saturating it really well using my 0 time system brush. And that's what I'm using as my toner. And what I'm doing is going in with Pravana Chroma Silk, and we are using a little bit of 7N. So we are using 20 grams of 7N and 20 grams of 8.22. And that's going to get rid of that warmth that we don't want to see, but it's going to add just a little bit of depth into there. I love the way this came out with the contrast, and you can see here those money pieces are really nice and bright up in the front because the sections were thinner than the rest, and I love that. She was super happy. Like, I just love the blend, love the contrast. It came out gorgeous.